Hello, my name is Garrett Brown. Today I'll be doing a presentation on the Gaelic language. The Gaelic language is found primarily in Scotland. It was spoken in Scotland. The big boom was during the medieval period when most people in Scotland were speaking this language. However, currently, there are only about 57,000 people in Scotland speaking this language. As you can see, about 1.1% of the Scottish population. There's also a population in Canada that speaks Gaelic, about 4,000 people. They're actually very active in the revitalization process of this language. It is most commonly spoken in rural areas of Scotland, which is what my presentation will be, why that is the case. And it is classified as Indo-European language, and is classified by the United Kingdoms as an indigenous language for the United Kingdom. So it's not a national language for Scotland. Not enough people speak it, but it is recognized as an indigenous language for the people there. On to the next slide. So Scottish Gaelic is endangered. It is listed as threatened. The ruralization of the language started because of the English occupation of Scotland. So as the English took over the ruling of Scotland, they pushed out the Gaelic language from the government and from royalty, which removed the power that the language held. So the only people who were speaking it were farmers and people in rural areas, the nationals of Scotland. The use of Scots also contributed to the endangerment of Gaelic. Scots is a Irish and English mix that was used during the Wars of Scottish Independence and became much more popular than Gaelic during that time. Gaelic was also persecuted directly by the Scottish government that was, of course, run by the English. On to the next slide. So the Great Famine. Um, I'm sure most of you have heard of the potato famine. I just have some facts here. It started in 1845 and ended in 1852. About 20 to 25% of Ireland's population dropped off during this time. There was also a mass immigration due to Irish starvation. About a million Irish people died, and about another million left because of starvation. As you can see, three-fourths of the potato crop destroyed every year. As I was talking about earlier, um, Gaelic was spoken mostly in rural by farmers and being pushed out by the government. So when the Great Famine happened, all of the people who were dying, well, not all, but a large demographic of the people who were dying were these rural Gaelic speakers. So obviously that did a huge damage. I mean, a million people and a large demographic of them are speaking this language. You can actually see on this next slide here how that affected Gaelic. I'm just going to move myself so you can see the screen better here. Yep. So the Great Famine affected mostly these rural areas. This really cemented non-Gaelic power in the government. So all the people who did speak Gaelic were dying off, which allowed the English speakers to kind of cement their power. As you can see here, before the famine, about 30% of Scotland's population spoke Gaelic, and then after the famine, it dropped all the way to 25%, and then continued to drop after the famine, really cementing that destruction of the language. It was declining before the language, but it was sped up significantly by the famine and in those years. On to the next slide. So revitalization attempts. There are many revitalization attempts going on, and actually quite successful. As you can see there at the bottom of the screen, the number of Gaelic speakers is currently rising. This is due to a lot to these Irish immigration schools. I'm going to try to pronounce this. I've listened to it a couple of times. Gaelio Silenia are formed. These are education centers for the Gaelic language. They are immersion schools that students can attend and get immersed into Gaelic and speak the language. There are also organizations with the sole idea for reviving the Gaelic language, like the Gaelic League and the Gaelic Society. I think the outlook for Gaelic revitalization is very good. This is a country that supports its heritage wholeheartedly, and I think that they're doing a great job, and these schools are working well. These are my sources, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.